How's it going, everybody? So in this video, I wanted to simplify my health and nutrition principles and basically my guidelines for how I think most people will be able to achieve a extremely vibrant and high level of health regardless of their current baseline, okay? Regardless of where you start from. So, first of all, I've tried so many different diets over the last decade. I've done the Mediterranean diet, the vegetarian diet, I've done the vegan diet, fruitarian diet, carnivore diet, paleo diet. I've done the zone diet, the ketogenic diet. I've tried the repeat diet. I've tried every single different type of diet and nutrition protocol under the sun. And as you could probably tell from my over 900 videos on my channel now, I've also tried pretty much every single major herb or supplement that's on the market. Of course, there are a lot of new ones and a lot of ones I haven't tried, but through trial and error, I've found a lot of different herbs and nutrition protocols that have certain benefits and certain beneficial applications and properties. And I've been able to find out what seems to work for most people based on my experiences, but also the fact that I have taken a deep dive into the communities surrounding all of these different diets. You know, Reddit groups, old school internet forums, Facebook groups, YouTube comments, and different YouTube channels and interviews and documentation. I also scour the scientific literature on a regular basis and regularly discuss the findings of each of these different studies. Everything from intervention trials to mechanistic studies. And I've also worked with hundreds of different clients with varying goals, varying health issues, as well as different age and lifestyles and all sorts of things. So I've been able to kind of, extract like the most beneficial properties and what seems to work for many people in different cases from all of these different experiences and sources of information. I've also read like every single major opinion piece book for every single kind of nutritional ideology. So, you have like the Gerson therapy books, you have like Dr. Sebi and his protocols. I've read like Paul Saladino's books. I read the many prominent vegan doctors' books, Colin Campbell and the China Study, Eat to Live by Dr. Joel Furman, you name it. So, in general, what I find is, the vast majority of people who have autoimmune illness or mysterious illnesses like, don't even get me started, but especially things like fibromyalgia, psoriasis, autoimmune arthritis, lupus, and the list goes on, as well as digestive illness like Crohn's disease, irritable bowel syndrome, colitis. Very often, the major commonality between all the people that have healed from these issues is that they all had a food or a group of foods that their body was reacting to and triggering their symptoms. So for many people, including myself, the culprit is very simple and easy to identify, and it's obvious, but you just never really notice like the correlation between your symptoms and that food. For me, it was easy. It was just whole grains, beans, nuts and seeds, and legumes. Those were the things that were triggering my symptoms. And it was to the point where, my intestine and my bowel function was just terrible. The worst irritable bowel syndrome you'll ever hear of. Psoriasis was extremely bad, like all over my body, very red, extreme anxiety, you name it. And literally just after identifying the whole grains, beans, nuts, and seeds as the cause and removing those foods, my symptoms completely vanished within about a week or so at the most. And so it's a night or day difference. It's literally like having a brand new life. And on top of that, I had many mental health issues over my lifetime. The main one though that kind of was prominent was I had extreme panic disorder for 2 years, 2012 to 2014, and I resolved that through a combination of tonic herbs like holy basil, gynostemma, American ginseng, and mindset changes, psychology, and kind of different experiments that I did socially. Some I always refer to as a stoic experiment through combining tonic herbs that actually have documented evidence for helping to resolve things like depression and anxiety. I mean, holy basil is a huge one. Using targeted nutrition protocols where we remove trigger foods and we emphasize the most nourishing foods that we can possibly eat that don't trigger symptoms, and then utilizing effective mindset strategies, okay? Like understanding the power the mind has on especially things like anxiety and depression, the power of the placebo effect, the power of the nocebo effect, and how over focusing on a health issue can oftentimes make it worse through direct but also indirect means. For most people, if you have like an autoimmune or a digestive disease, you want to start by doing an extreme elimination diet. And again, this is your choice if you choose to do this or not. Maybe there's other options out there, but I've seen thousands and thousands of people with documented reports of resolving their issues do so on this type of elimination diet. From what I've seen, the closer people go to only meat for a small period of time, only to see if your symptoms go away from removing all of these various plant foods, the more likely you are to actually notice a difference at first, right? And so this was very hard for me to accept, and many people don't want to restrict themselves that much. But if you have a choice of suffering from severe symptoms of autoimmunity or digestive illness, especially in things like Crohn's disease, where the only other alternative is to remove parts of your colon through surgery, and many of these autoimmune disorders we don't have like any real treatments for, or if we do, they don't really help much and they have extreme side effects. So if that's the only alternative, then why be opposed? Like why say no to 2 weeks just eating mostly meat, but also maybe getting enough salt to maintain fluid and electrolyte balance? Just so that you can kind of see if removing such a wide variety of foods, most specifically plants, and maybe eggs and dairy as well, and shellfish, to see if your symptoms go away. Because if they do, that is a very clear indication that there's something you're eating that's triggering your symptoms. Because if you're like me, you spent thousands and thousands of dollars every single month for years on end trying various supplements and soaps and cleanses and fiber supplements and probiotics and prebiotics and enzymes, trying to find the answer to your health problem. But nothing really seems to work, even though you tried all the most extreme, sometimes pharmaceutical, very expensive and invasive options. And then lots of people, thousands of people, I keep mentioning, it's true, you could see for yourself, including myself, were blown away by the fact that all of the expense, all the money we spend, all of that probiotics, all these things that a lot of these doctors, these functional medicine doctors and naturopaths kind of hype up, super green drinks, all these things, none of that really helped, but just removing certain plant foods was the ticket. Now, I don't think that plant foods are deadly or toxic or poisonous or anything like that. What I think is, for whatever reason, whether it's antibiotic use or pesticides or whatever, for some reason, specific certain individuals, okay, maybe it's a minority if we're talking on a large population scale, or maybe it's a lot of people that just aren't even aware that this is happening to them. But what we find is certain individuals, when they remove certain plant foods, and sometimes certain animal foods, like eggs, for example, their symptoms completely go away and they're able to live way better, healthier, happier lives without needing to worry about medications or some mysterious illness that's plaguing them. So I have many videos on the deeper kind of mechanisms as to why some of these things happen. My main speculation is some kind of dysregulation of the intestinal flora. So some of these foods might actually start to penetrate the gut lining. So they can kind of irritate the intestinal wall, and then eventually undigested food particles can seep through and then can trigger an immune reaction, which can be a contributor to both intestinal issues from the inflammation of the gut lining, but also the immune response to the foreign food or to the floating food particles that trigger autoimmunity. So for one, that's actually one of the most kind of commonly accepted paradigms, no matter what you call it. Some people call it gut dysbiosis. There's many different kind of labels for it. But I've also noticed a trend where people tend to have autoimmune issues as well as like usually paired with intestinal issues or digestive issues of some kind. Not always, but it is very common, and it was definitely my experience. And when you find the trigger food, both of those issues kind of completely resolve. So, you know, once you get this taken care of, right? So if you do just like only meat for 2 weeks and you see your symptoms resolve, then what you need to do is slowly add back in specific kind of plant foods that you really miss. The first ones you add back in need to be ones that you really want to eat, that you really hope are not contributing, right? So, you know, for me, that was mainly cacao powder, maca root, yerba mate, which, by the way, all of those, well, not maca, but cacao and yerba mate tend to stimulate histamine release, which can trigger some of these problems. But some people, they want blueberries. Like, man, if I could just eat meat and blueberries for a while, I'll be okay, right? And so, you know, finding what foods like you really crave and you really miss and adding them back in. Other people, it's bananas. For some people, it's oatmeal, right? And it's like, from what I can tell, the further we go away from, you know, meat, fruit, and select vegetables, the more likely it is usually to trigger issues. But sometimes it's just as simple as removing peanuts, wheat, and eggs, right? So elimination diet, though, is like what we're trying to do here. This is not some kind of dogmatic carnivore diet type of thing where it's like meat is magic and plants are deadly. That's a very, in my opinion, a very cognitively lazy approach. It's a dogmatic approach. It's very useful for like developing a lot of followers and becoming a popular person who makes a lot of money off of content. But I don't think that it's actually scientifically accurate. It's not really reflected in the research. And most people find that they can add back in certain plant foods with no real kind of like negative side effects. So after that, so you add back in foods that you really want, right? So it's important to understand that at a baseline, like there are actually a lot of people who have, again, documented reports not only of reversing certain illnesses on a mostly or an all meat diet, but also, and just so people know, you know, if you're intolerant to grains, you don't even have to eat meat. You just remove the grains, but then all you're left with is like fruit and maybe potatoes. I don't know if that's a good idea to just eat a diet like that. You know, the point is like it's a trigger food that you need to find, right? And as long as you remove that trigger food, you're fine. Because like for me, I resolved my health issues when I was raw vegan, but it caused other health issues as a side effect. So the raw vegan diet worked for me for my autoimmunity or whatever, but it didn't work for me for, you know, uh, being able to function in daily life without feeling I'm going to pass out from maybe blood sugar fluctuations or blood pressure or something. But anyway, so yeah, you start to kind of start with red meat, in my opinion, or whatever meat you feel comfortable eating, I suppose. But red meat's best if you're looking to heal, because it's the most commonly reported to work well for people. And that's like the foundation, and then you start to kind of build your own custom nutrition plan on top of that. The issue is a lot of people have strange kind of beliefs about eating meat, strange beliefs about what a healthy diet is or what health is or nutrition quality, nutrient density is. And then, that can kind of prevent them from actually becoming healthy and developing their health goals. And I see this all the time, but then they don't want to kind of look honestly at, well, is it possible that maybe if I added meat in my diet, it would help me? And it doesn't help that there's all these vegan corporations who fund research, like Loma Linda University and, Seventh-day Adventists and things like that. But, that specifically try to make it sound like literally anyone can eat a vegan diet, even babies. That's what people kind of... So anyway, as you kind of create your own nutrition program that works for you, resolves all your kind of health issues, but also optimizes your energy and well-being. Some people do better with lower carbs. Some people do better with higher carbs. And it's all about trial and error from that point. The goal, though, is to ask ourselves, what is it that we're trying to achieve here? And after you resolve your autoimmune issues or your digestive issues, then you no longer are really concerned with health, unless, of course, you become orthorexic and health obsessed. At that point, it's like, well, I don't have psoriasis, I don't have Crohn's, I have a diet with meat and fruit, and I feel freaking awesome. Well, what's next, right? And so either you can continue on with your life goals and never think about health again, but just eat the diet that you found works best for you, or you can continue to try to make it even better. And so after, and some people might be able to add back brown rice, black rice, purple rice. Just know that there's no real, there's no true essential nutrient that we need outside of meat and then maybe some fruit. So vitamin C, magnesium, potassium. Some people are convinced that they need that in their diet, but there's no real evidence. Well, it's a long kind of story, but I go into detail in some of my videos. It's kind of touched on in the book from Catherine Price, Vitamania. But even if you did feel like you were missing something from meat and you want to get all of your RDIs, so if you pull up a nutrient tracking app like Chronometer, you can just add some fruit to your meat diet. And then maybe some broccoli and carrots, or maybe some potatoes if that's something you like, and you don't get autoimmunity that's triggered from potatoes. Like nightshade vegetables like potatoes typically can cause pains and stuff. But even though they're delicious, especially with lots of butter. But what you find is the vitamin C, the potassium, the magnesium, the vitamin B1, the folate, anything you don't normally get in meat, and organs, by the way, you can get from fruits, and then add a little bit of preferably cooked vegetables. Most people tend to do not so well with raw vegetables. Everyone has individual thresholds, it seems. But you reach all your nutrient needs in that regard. There's no reason to be there's no reason to think, I need the oatmeal, because I used to think that, and meanwhile, it was literally causing my problems. But there's also no reason to think, freaking oatmeal is going to kill me. There's anti-nutrients and phytates and this and that. Because, there's many healthy, successful populations who include that in their diet, and they're not experiencing health issues. So I think it's just a matter of finding what's triggering your health issues, right? And then eliminating it, and then adding things back. So beyond that, we have things like tonic herbs, right? I think certain fruits and other kind of foods can kind of act as almost like they can boost certain qualities. your energy levels, your kind of like nootropic benefits, like your cognition and your mental faculties, your productivity, your libido, your drive, right? There's a lot of what people call functional foods, cacao, maca. Some people think like flax seeds are a functional food. I don't think so at all. And I think the whole fiber craze is really overblown. There's books there's a book called The Fiber Menace that, is really extreme, but it kind of opens your mind to the idea that maybe this fiber thing isn't necessarily essential, and sometimes it might actually be harming me, right? But tonic herbs, so things like cordyceps, reishi mushroom, American ginseng, Panax red ginseng, gynostemma, eleuthero, deer antler velvet. There's another one, horny goatweed, longjack, also known as Tongkat Ali, which I don't know. I think people need to be very careful about that. Let's see, what else is there? Black ant extract, something I really enjoy taking. Rhodiola rosea. Some people like ashwagandha, but a lot of people find it kind of hurts them. So these are herbs and supplements a lot of people refer to as adaptogens, but I made a video recently saying adaptogens are a lie. They don't really work for everybody, and they don't benefit everyone the way that like adaptogens, like the whole kind of idea and concept of adaptogens kind of implies. But the whole thing about tonic herbs is asking ourselves, what is it that we want to achieve? So some people, so all like tonic herbs overall, they do boost pretty much most systems in the body to a general degree, right? So most tonic herbs, they work on your energy, vitality, your sleep, your digestion, your mental health, your well-being, your brain function, your circulation and blood flow, your immune system. They boost a lot of these things and improve them to a certain degree. But different tonic herbs boost some systems of the body more than others. And they can influence different systems in the body in a kind of reverse way, right? Even though they all benefit all systems of the body to a general certain degree, they can to some degree have an opposite effect in some areas, okay? So it's almost like you're looking for an herb that basically takes the place of an immune boosting compound, a nutrient boosting kind of supplement, a digestive improving supplement, a sleep improving supplement, an anti-anxiety, an energy booster. Like literally it's an all-in-one kind of concept. However, these herbs are often used usually in quantities of 1 to sometimes 5 different tonic herbs used in synergy to get your desired effect. They have different energetic qualities that can suit your needs more or less depending on what you choose. So for some people, so for example, I have a friend who, is trying to boost his kind of like arousal, right? And kind of like some of the maybe mental or neurotransmitter type aspects of libido. And so in that case, in Chinese medicine, we call it yang jing herbs, right? Yang jing tonics that work on the jing primarily, but also usually the qi and the shen to a certain degree. And those herbs would be things like black maca, gelatinized black maca. It would be things like tribulus terrestris. But it can also be things like, more specifically, black ant extract, deer antler velvet, what else? Horny goatweed, those types of things. And to a certain degree, cordyceps, But then there's other people that are actually trying to do the opposite. There are people out there, and, there's a lot of kind of conflicting evidence, and I don't want to spread this misinformation that reishi mushroom has negative impacts on libido, because it's not true. But there's some people out there, this was me for a very long time, who are just very hyperactive sex drive, where I'm very mentally aroused very easily. and it can lead to negative kind of habits and behaviors. Like we have, no fap communities and kind of like porn addiction and stuff like that many people are suffering from, and it has a very detrimental impact on people's lives. And so when they take an herb like reishi, which is a premier Shin tonic, so Jing does not necessarily mean the sex drive per se, but Jing tonics, especially Yang Jing tonics, tend to make you more mentally aroused. Shin tonics, on the other hand, especially ones that really emphasize Shin or are known for their Shin qualities, tend to dissolve negative behaviors, negative beliefs, negative habits and tendencies, and addictive behaviors. So for someone who might have too much kind of mental arousal surrounding sex, something like reishi mushroom, maybe holy basil, and some of these other premier Shin tonics, okay, spirit boosting herbs, especially yin jing or yin, type tonics, like these can actually lower your mental arousal. They can kind of like bring your arousal and your sex drive and your energy levels to a healthier kind of level. So someone who's always like hyper aggressive and very angry and stuff like that, and maybe anxious, maybe has trouble sleeping, and they have a really hardcore sex drive, would very much like find that their quality of life dramatically improves when they take a reishi or holy basil or some type of Shin tonic. But if they were to take something like red panax ginseng or a more aggressive kind of like yang jing type tonic, or even it's fortified Shin too, they'll find that it actually makes all of the qualities that are very extreme in them already even worse. And so that's why it's important. I'm trying to make a really awesome video on tonic herbs so we can really demystify this for good, but that is kind of like the basic understanding of tonic herbs. You have the foundation, which is your diet, and your diet should really eliminate any need for vitamins, minerals, or anything like that. And your diet should eliminate anything that might be triggering autoimmunity, digestive issues, etc., and should be nourishing you and giving you everything you need to survive and thrive. For healthy sleep, testosterone, dopamine, you shouldn't really need supplements or herbs if your diet is on track. Even as you get older, if your diet is on point and you're eating enough calories and fats, your hormone levels should be okay, as long as your diet is on point and your lifestyle, and except with some exceptions, of course. But people get really caught up in this idea that they need drugs or they need a cocktail, like 20 to 30 different supplements per day, spending all this money on extra stuff, when in reality their diet is just lacking something, or their diet includes something that's harming them. And so once you get that diet on check, it really takes care of most issues. And that includes salt, if you feel like you need it. Some people don't. And then once you get that on track, then you could add things that enhance it. Tonic herbs, various sources of caffeine. And if you don't do good with coffee and you think it boosts cortisol and whatever, you could try something like green tea, or even better, yerba mate or guayusa, which are other caffeinated plants that people don't know too much about, that have very beneficial properties on dopamine and stress hormones and things. So there's a lot of options out there, and it's like, so what people look for in drugs, testosterone replacement, antidepressants, energy boosting supplements, and things like that, very often you can find with a proper diet, but also with tonic herbs, okay? So, and the key is, like, diet can only do so much. The more extreme your issue is, like, especially if you have anxiety, depression, serious life issues, if you feel overwhelmed, if you have sleep issues, if you have issues with your libido and things like that, sometimes diet isn't enough, and tonic herbs really add that extra punch that solves things for good. So for me, like, my life has been forever changed with tonic herbs. And the ones that I have been taking regularly this year, mostly cordyceps and rhodiola, but also black ant extract, mucuna pruriens, and then I've been using either I've been switching between guayusa, coffee, yerba mate, and I've kind of been experimenting with different ginsengs this year as well. So yeah, but I've tried so many different things over the years, and so yeah, for the most part, those are the most important things for me. Like, I have the best energy I've ever felt in my life. I feel healthier and younger and more vigorous than I've ever felt in my life. More mentally sane and more mentally on point. More fulfilled. More productive. I feel amazing, and I have a pretty demanding job with lots of different consultations and scheduled appointments of various kinds, personal training. I'm also training, trying to train jiu-jitsu and powerlifting at the same time. I have college and a lot of homework. So sometimes I get very little sleep. Like right now I'm, running on, it seems like almost a week with very little sleep, if any. But I'm able to kind of like in the morning, wake up when I set my alarm, go to my appointments and do what needs to be done. And like, you can't even tell, like, you're listening to me right now and you might think, man, this guy sounds more on point than he ever has in any of his videos. But I think part of this, there could be a lot of reasons, but a big reason is that my nutrition is on point. I'm not having these crazy blood glucose spikes that tend to make people lethargic and need more sleep. But I'm also taking tonic herbs to help boost my productivity and cognition during periods where my body's in a higher state of stress or a deficit of recovery. And during these times, I could literally fast for like 21 hours and be lower on sleep. And I can actually train vigorously and see consistent progress in my jiu-jitsu as well as in my strength and conditioning programs and in every other aspect of my life, even though I'm lower on sleep. So, a lot of people, they emphasize, like, man, I need, if I don't get 8 to 10 hours of sleep, then I'm doomed, like my health goes to crap and all this other stuff. And they think that they're trying to be healthy by, kind of like relying so much on everything being perfect. But for me, I recognize there's 20% of methods in my life that yields 80% of my results. And in regards to my productivity, my sharpness, my ability to thrive, and my health, and my energy levels, and my ability to, I'm not like you want to be able to build resiliency, okay? And it's mostly built through nutrition, your mindset, making sure you use your mind to your advantage. If you believe that being low on sleep is going to hinder you, that in and of itself, it's actually been shown in intervention trials, can actually make it tremendously worse on you. And so I do everything in my power to be resilient, to be adaptable, and to be able to conquer no matter the circumstances. Okay? And so that's kind of like the next thing we're going to get to is hormesis. So hormesis is the idea that a little bit of a stressor can actually create a positive adaptation that makes you more resilient and stronger to be able to better withstand that stressor in the future. People in the military who go through low sleep phases tend to adapt to being able to perform at high levels on lower sleep. And then I notice when they leave the military, they still kind of take with them the same sleep schedule, but now they're just like thriving in their everyday life. They just on less sleep. I think that sleep is something that can be adapted to, and I think it's due to hormesis. Another example of hormesis is when you go in the sauna, you get heat shock proteins, you get kind of like a short-term boost in your endogenous antioxidant systems and your immune system. You get improvements in your mood and also direct adaptations to be able to withstand the heat of the sauna in the future. The same thing happens with cold. The same thing happens with exercise, with holding your breath underwater, with swimming. The same thing happens with reading books. The first week or so of reading a book, it's very stressful. It's hard to focus and concentrate. You could only read 5 pages before you give up. But the more that you do it, the more your brain adapts. And then before you know it, you can read 50 pages a day and not even really break a sweat. So it's important to look at life through the lens of resiliency, right? One of the main reasons why you see testosterone levels decline as we age, why you see people having less energy and being less fit as they age, why you see muscle tone and bone health go down as people age in these studies. It's not that there's anything special about aging that really is deteriorating the body. I mean, obviously, there comes a point where hormones play a major role and your body can't keep up. But I think a lot of people give up way, way before that threshold is reached. I think underneath the age of 70, I know that sounds like a really high age. Underneath the age of 70, I think the most important thing is building a resilient, adaptable body. We can actually build bone mass, okay? Build healthier, stronger bones. Build healthier, stronger connective tissue. We can increase muscle mass, bone mineral density. We can improve our health. We can improve our cognition. Neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to adapt and regrow neurons, it doesn't just stop at a certain age. Your brain is always adaptable and able to create new connections as you get older. And I think that's why one of the primary kind of commonalities between all super centenarians that live past the age of 100 is they continue to garden, they learn new skills, they pick up karate, they pick up jiu-jitsu. Some of them they start going to the gym at an old age. They pick up dancing or bingo or a new hobby. It's very important to always be learning and to always be kind of adapting and to be active and building resiliency, okay? That sounds like some kind of meathead philosophy, but I think it is reflected in the scientific literature, and just rationally and logically, you can make the case that one of the leading causes of death really is people getting weaker, people getting more sedentary, more passive, people losing their zest for life, and really just people, for whatever reason, allowing their health to kind of decline as they get older. With some exceptions where it's kind of like out of their control, right? And that's also to kind of explains a lot of the science that claims, the more fruits and vegetables people eat, the healthier they seem to be compared to the lower vegetable groups. Yeah, I made videos explaining why these studies are kind of like not really reliable, but the big commonality is people who eat the most fruits and vegetables in our society are the ones who are exercising. They're the ones who believe that they can control their health. They believe health is wealth. It's so expensive to buy that much fruits and vegetables that are in the highest end of the study that are getting the healthiest health outcomes. It's what we call healthy user bias, and it's very important. It's very relevant. And I think that's actually what is going on. A lot of people think they found the magic diet or the magic supplement, and I do feel like what I laid out here, I think it works magically, but I don't think it's a dogmatic thing. I think the only case you can make that this is dogmatic is if you think that red meat is not necessary or something, or it's like, oh, you shouldn't eat that, it's the base of your diet or whatever. Saying that you can get all your nutrients from red meat, this is something that we can discuss at length in a whole dedicated video, and I have done that in the past. But it's something that you mold to your own needs, right? Because if I made the mistake when I was vegan of attaching myself to that image, and I made videos telling people veganism is the best thing. I had a girl that I was dating that I turned vegan. Turns out that was causing my health issues. The very thing that I thought was helping me and was the savior of all disease and ailments. And so, and a lot of people find so when we attach ourselves to, like, you know, this is the way, and it's an ideology, that's not good, right? And also, it's important to understand, if you do carnivore and, you know, maybe you have some kind of, I don't know, unpleasant symptoms, it's not always that meat is necessarily bad. The same way that it's not always the thing that plants are bad, right? There's other potential kind of things that can happen if you don't do this appropriately. Some people might have been bitten by a tick and they actually have a red meat allergy. Some people might have low stomach acid, so you need apple cider vinegar or maybe some enzymes like betaine hydrochloride to improve your stomach acid production so that you can digest that meat better, right? Other people might just be low on sodium or electrolytes, and that's a very individual thing. A lot of people find that they don't need salt or anything at all. They just eat meat and drink water, and they're fine. Other people find that they need a high, crazy amount of salt, sometimes a little potassium, magnesium, and then they feel fine and they feel amazing, right? So, yeah, it's not a one-size-fits-all. This is a troubleshooting kind of protocol and finding what works for you, and then just, like, making it, like, finding, like, trying to become superhuman, but in a way that fits your energy, fits your needs, fits your own individual kind of symptomology. You know, this is something that I've came to over a decade of experimentation, working with other people who had similar issues to mine or even worse issues than mine, in various professions, right? In a variety of different settings with different goals, different guidelines too, right? Because, you know, talking about nutrition to people is kind of like can be a hairy subject. Luckily, we live in Texas where it's not like super regulated, but that's also not the best idea because I feel like I'm unique in the fact that I don't recommend dangerous things. I let people know, hey, there's a possibility that it, you know, might have adverse reactions and yada yada. But a lot of people are just like, no, freaking veganism is the best for everyone. If you follow it, you're going to be great. Or they'll be like, you just got to eat the meat diet, and if it doesn't work for you, you know, then you just need to eat more meat then. You know, or it's a detox. You're just detoxing. That's a really common one, right? And people could be detoxing for decades on, you know, and before they finally realize that they're self-inflicting sarcopenia, you know, maybe neurodegeneration and schizophrenia, and nutrient deficiencies over the long term with a nutrient deficient diet that just didn't actually work for them as much as they thought it did. So there's a whole lot more to cover. Mindset, psychology, philosophy. I made a video on value systems earlier. Definitely check that out because it covers a lot of what's most important for fulfillment in your career, in your life, in your relationships, in your friendships. But anyway, leave your question in the comments down below. Please let me know what you think. If you have any kind of concerns or need any help at all, definitely like the video, subscribe to my channel, and I would love to hear from you, even if you disagree. And we will definitely talk very, very soon.